Before a single word of teaching is spoken, the heart must be gripped, and that begins with vision. Imagine this. You are not the person you were yesterday. You are not even the person you were an hour ago. With every thought you choose, every action you take, every moment you give your attention, your brain is being reshaped. You are in motion being molded, whether you know it or not. The astonishing truth is this. Your mind is not fixed. It is fluid, living, designed to be transformed. Attention is the most powerful force you possess because wherever your attention goes, your brain follows. Every thought you choose to focus on, every word you repeat, every image you hold in your mind's eye, these are not passing moments. They are instructions to your nervous system, commands that reshape the architecture of your mind. The circuits of your brain are not fixed. They are living, dynamic, and waiting for direction. Attention is that direction. It is the gatekeeper of what becomes strong in you and what fades away. Both neurons that fire together wire together, and the only way they repeatedly fire is through the weight of your focus. Think about it. When you dwell on fear, you don't just entertain it, you build it brick by brick into the foundation of your brain. But when you choose to turn that same beam of attention toward courage, toward faith, toward vision, you begin to reinforce those pathways until they become the highways of your being. Until they become the highways of your being. Attention is not casual addition. In every holy text, in every teaching of wisdom, there is a call to fix your mind, to meditate, to keep your eyes single, to lift your gaze upward. Why? Because what you attend to, you become. The human brain is wired to obey focus. It cannot resist it. If your attention is scattered, your circuits are scattered. If your attention is consumed by distractions, your strength is siphoned away. But if your attention is directed like a laser, concentrated on one thing with discipline and reverence, the brain bends to it. Attention is prayer in action, the daily offering of your mind to the altar of what you value most. The truth is, many live their lives as if their attention were worthless, giving it away to noise, to doubt, to the endless cycle of comparison and fear. Yet, attention is the seed of destiny. When you decide to take hold of it, to command it, you are not simply making a choice in the moment, you are shaping who you will become tomorrow. Your brain will obey what you continually attend to. And this is the divine gift. You are not chained to the patterns of your past. You are not condemned to repeat the same cycles. If you will seize your attention, guard it, and aim it with intention, your brain will rewrite itself in alignment with the vision you hold. Repetition and emotion are the chisels that carve new patterns into the brain. The nervous system is not convinced by ideas you visit once. It is convinced by the things you return to, again and again with feeling. A single spark may light a match, but it is repetition that builds the fire, and it is emotion that fuels it until it roars. Every time you repeat a thought, a word, a prayer, or an action, the brain lays down another layer of connection, another strand of wire in the circuit of who you are becoming key. And when that repetition is charged with deep emotion, joy, faith, gratitude, reverence, it burns more deeply into your neural pathways, marking them as significant, demanding that they stay. This is why rituals carry such power. Why daily practices of devotion, meditation, or affirmation transform lives. The repetition of words alone is practice. But when those words are lifted with passion, with belief, with the trembling weight of emotion, they penetrate the brain in a way mere logic never could. Science tells us that the brain encodes emotional experiences more vividly, that dopamine, adrenaline, and other neurochemicals surge when we feel, binding those moments into memory and into circuitry. But long before science, the ancients knew this truth. They sang their prayers, they wept their vows, they rejoiced with shouts because they understood that the heart's fire engraves itself on the mind. Consider this. Every time you repeat a destructive thought with emotion, you are engraving a wound deeper into your soul. Every complaint whispered with bitterness, every fear rehearsed with trembling, every doubt spoken with despair. It is not harmless. It is training your brain to expect defeat, to lean toward darkness. But the opposite is also true. Every time you repeat words of life, words of faith, words of hope with burning emotion, you are writing strength into your neural code. You are preparing your brain to see opportunity where others see impossibility, to stand firm where others collapse. Repetition alone is discipline, but repetition with emotion is transformation. This is why daily renewal matters, why one prayer is not enough, why one declaration is not enough. The brain learns through consistency and the spirit ignites through passion. When you bring them together, when you repeat truth with fire, when you return to vision with longing, when you rehearse gratitude with tears, the brain does not forget. It obeys. It strengthens. It begins to carve that path so deeply that one day it becomes the way you walk, without effort. What was once discipline becomes identity. What was once practice becomes nature. The divine design is that your brain would align with your spirit through repetition and emotion, until what you choose to feel and what you choose to speak becomes the life you live. Stress, when harnessed correctly, becomes the furnace in which strength is forged and learning is accelerated. Most people see stress as an enemy, as something to be avoided. But in truth, it is one of the greatest gifts encoded into the human nervous system. When pressure rises, when challenges appear, when the weight of difficulty presses against you, your brain releases chemicals that heighten focus, sharpen memory, and ingrain experiences more deeply. Stress opens the gates of neuroplasticity wider than comfort ever will. It is in the heat of trial, in the stretching of your limits, that the nervous system says, "This matters." Remember this. Adapt to this. Every sacred story carries this theme. The desert before the promise, the furnace before the freedom, the storm before the calm. The storm before the calm. Stress is not the evidence of abandonment, but the preparation for transformation. Science tells us that adrenaline and noradrenaline surge during stress, placing the brain into a heightened state of receptivity. Neurons fire more intensely, circuits reorganize more quickly. What you do in those moments of pressure will be written in bold letters upon your brain. If you collapse, if you retreat into fear, those patterns will be reinforced. But if you lean into faith, if you anchor yourself in vision, if you declare courage when your body trembles, you etch resilience into your very wiring. The danger lies not in stress itself, but in how it is framed. If you view it as destruction, it becomes poison. If you embrace it as a sacred opportunity, it becomes the refining fire. Stress hormones alone cannot shape you. They simply open the door. What you choose to focus on, what you repeat, what you believe in those moments decides whether the door becomes a prison or a passageway. In the grip of pressure, your brain is malleable, ready to be imprinted. That is why trials can either break a person or make them unshakable. Think of the blacksmith who places iron into the fire. Without heat, the metal cannot be shaped, cannot be strengthened. The fire itself is not the end, it is the process. Stress is that fire. It exposes weakness, it reveals where growth is needed, and it grants the chance to become something stronger than you were before. The ancient words say to rejoice in trials, because they produce endurance, and endurance produces character. That is not empty poetry, it is neurobiology clothed in wisdom. Endurance is literally etched into the circuits of the brain when stress is embraced with purpose. So the call is not to flee stress, but to face it with holy intent. When the storm comes, lift your eyes. When the weight presses, steady your breath. Declare what is true in the midst of fear, because those are the moments your brain will remember most. Those are the moments that change your wiring. Stress is not your downfall. It is your teacher, your refiner, the divine tool through which you are rewired into strength. Sleep and rest are not weaknesses. They are the very foundation upon which renewal is built, the sacred ground where the brain engraves the lessons of the day into the structure of tomorrow. Without rest, the seeds of learning cannot take root. Neuroplasticity is not complete in the moment of effort. It is completed in the silence that follows. When the nervous system weaves together the patterns you practiced, the truths you repeated, the faith you declared. In deep rest, the brain replays experiences, deciding what to strengthen and what to discard. What you dwell upon before you sleep, what fills your heart as you lay down, often becomes the script that your mind rehearses through the night. This is why the hours of rest are holy, why they must be guarded. Science shows that sleep is when the brain clears away toxins, resets its circuits, and strengthens the pathways most recently used. It is as if the architect himself designed a rhythm where striving must give way to surrender, where the night becomes a temple of repair. The firing of neurons slows, then surges in waves, replaying the actions and thoughts of the day. If your day was filled with fear and worry, your brain stamps those patterns more deeply. If your day was filled with discipline, devotion, gratitude, and courage, those pathways are laid down like steel beams. Sleep does not create new material. It builds with whatever you have given it. That is why rest is not passive. It is participatory in the sense that what you carry into it is magnified. Even the scriptures point to the power of rest. On the seventh day, creation paused, not out of fatigue, but to set a divine pattern. Work and then renewal, labor and then restoration. The human body and brain were designed for this cycle. When you deny it, when you grind without pause, your circuits fray, your clarity dulls, and your spirit grows weary. But when you honor it, when you see sleep, not as lost time, but as sacred preparation, you awaken sharper, stronger, more aligned. The mind is not designed to function without this rhythm. Night after night, the brain performs its unseen work of sanctifying your thoughts and wiring them into your being. Rest is also where faith is tested. Can you release control, trusting that while you sleep, your creator still moves? Can you surrender the wheel, believing that growth is happening even when you are unconscious? This is not idleness. It is obedience to the design written into your biology. The humble acknowledgement that your strength alone is not enough, that you must yield to restoration. In that surrender, the nervous system does its deepest work. So do not despise sleep. Do not call rest weakness. See it as the hidden forge where the mind is renewed and the soul is refreshed. For in the quiet of the night, in the stillness of rest, your brain takes the raw material of your effort and engraves it into the structure of who you are becoming. Environment and habits are the silent sculptors of the brain, shaping the very circuits of thought and action without asking your permission. Every place you spend your time, every voice you allow near, every routine you repeat is pressing into the clay of your nervous system, molding it according to their form. You are not only what you think, you are what surrounds you. The brain is not sealed off. It is porous, receptive, constantly mirroring the patterns of the world it encounters. This is why wisdom has always commanded separation from corruption. What holy texts insist that light has no fellowship with darkness. For if your environment is chaotic, your mind becomes restless. If your environment is disciplined, your spirit finds strength. Habits, too, are more than choices. They are repeated instructions written into the brain until they no longer ask for your consent. What begins as a single decision, what you say, what you eat, how you rise, how you pray, if repeated, becomes automatic, etched into your circuitry. The danger and the blessing are the same. The brain does not care whether the habit is good or destructive. It will engrave it with equal precision. Each small action is a signal to your nervous system. This matters. Do it again. That is why even the smallest choices carry eternal weight. Consider how often sacred wisdom speaks of walking with the wise, of dwelling in the house of prayer, of meditating day and night. These are not casual suggestions. They are recognition of how the human brain is molded. Your company, your patterns, your environment. They are sermons preached daily to your nervous system. And your brain listens without resistance. If you place yourself in places of faith, discipline, and vision, your circuits will be rewired towards strength. If you dwell in environments of fear, addiction, and apathy, your brain will conform to decay. The soil you plant yourself in decides the harvest you will reap. Science affirms this ancient truth. Neurons fire in response to cues, sights, sounds, even smells that remind them of past actions. This is why returning to a place of old habits can trigger cravings, why a room filled with distraction weakens focus, why a circle of doubters can suffocate belief. But the reverse is equally powerful. Surround yourself with order, with reminders of your vision, with people who lift your gaze upward, and your brain begins to mirror it. Place scripture on your walls, build rhythms of discipline into your mornings, walk daily in gratitude, and your environment becomes a training ground for holiness and power. The call then is to guard your gates. Choose deliberately the spaces you enter, the voices you hear, the habits you repeat. For your brain is not neutral. It is a servant of environment and habit. And if you align those with your highest vision, with the eternal truths you were made for, then without even striving, your mind will be transformed. The circuits of your brain will echo the company you keep and the disciplines you honor until they shape not just what you do, but who you are becoming. Small, consistent actions are the hidden architects of transformation, the quiet builders that shape the brain with a force far greater than grand bursts of effort. The nervous system does not bend to rare explosions of passion. It bends to the steady rhythm of repetition, the daily turning of the wheel, the faithful return to what matters. Each time you choose a small action aligned with your vision, your brain takes notice, laying down another thread of circuitry, strengthening it little by little. until it becomes unshakable. This is the law of compound effect written into your biology. Tiny steps, multiplied over time, become highways of identity. Consider how seeds work in creation. One seed in the soil seems insignificant, but day after day, unseen, roots take hold, and in time, branches reach upward. The kingdom of heaven was compared to a mustard seed for this very reason. What begins as the smallest act can grow into something that shelters generations. The same law governs the brain. The act of rising early once may be forgotten, but rising early daily engraves discipline. A single prayer may pass quickly, but prayer repeated daily engraves faith. Reading one page of wisdom is small, but returning every day engraves wisdom. Small actions faithfully repeated command the nervous system to obey. Science affirms this truth with clarity. Long-term potentiation, the process by which neurons strengthen their connections, is not built on rare dramatic bursts, but on consistent signaling over time. Every small choice you make, how you speak to yourself, how you care for your body, how you treat others, sends signals through circuits. Repeat them, and they become stronger, easier, automatic. Ignore them, and they fade. Third, your brain is always listening, always recording, always adapting to the rhythm you set. But here lies the danger. Small destructive actions hold equal power. One moment of compromise, repeated daily, becomes addiction. One small word of complaint, repeated daily, engraves bitterness. One glance at distraction, repeated daily, engraves apathy. The nervous system does not judge the worth of the action. It only strengthens what you repeat. That is why wisdom cries out to guard the little things, to be faithful in the smallest matters. For the circuits of destiny are not shaped in one grand decision, but in the thousands of hidden choices no one else sees. The scriptures declare that those who are faithful in little will be entrusted with much. This is not only a spiritual law, it is a biological one. If you are faithful in the small, your brain entrusts you with strength, with resilience, with the automatic habits of greatness. But if you neglect the small, you erode your foundation. The greatest transformations, the deepest rewiring, come not from extraordinary effort on one day, but from ordinary faithfulness on every day. So do not despise small beginnings. Do not overlook the daily disciplines. For your brain is a field. A field, and each small act is a seed. Plant them with intention, water them with consistency, and over time they will grow into the towering structure of a renewed mind and a transformed life.